Welcome to Coffee in the Swarm, a Project Zion podcast production coming to you from Lamoni, Iowa, campus of Graceland University. The Swarm is our on-campus restaurant in the Newcomb Student Union. This year, this podcast is being co-hosted by student chaplain Julie Wheaton and myself, Mike Hoffman, the campus minister. It's where we interview students at Graceland who are connected to Community of Christ. Julie, how are you today, and what can you tell us about our guest today?
I'm doing good. A little tired today, really, but my 9 a.m. got canceled, so I got to sleep in a little bit.
Yeah, and we're not too far from finals.
Right.
So
today's guest is Addison Cole. And what's your major, Addison?
Okay, so hi, I'm Addison, like Julie said. I'm business administration and accounting with a minor in social change, and also do like other stuff on the side that isn't part of my major, so like orchestra and choir and stuff like that.
Cool, very cool. So, and you are in your first year here at Graceland?
Yes,
okay.
I'm a freshman.
So what instrument do you play in orchestra?
I play the cello.
Oh, yes.
I love the cello.
I do too.
It's the best. It's the best.
It always sounds like a human voice to me.
That's what it's like the closest to the human voice range. So that's why it's like the most like, I don't know, rich of the orchestra instruments. So I play the cello. And then my twin sister, Audrey, plays the violin.
Oh, that makes sense.
And then my middle sister, Cassandra, plays the viola. And my oldest plays the the violin. Okay. That was my mom's doing because it's a full quartet.
Oh.
Yeah.
So then every time it's like Christmas season.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, it's a quartet, please.
That's really very cool.
Yeah. Like instrument age, and we expressed interest. My mom was like, okay, great. Who's playing violin? Who's playing cello?
There was no question about it. And you're all sisters, right?
Yes. Yep.
So if you had a brother, he'd have to play the trombone or something?
Yeah, my dad was trumpet, but
I was just guessing at that. So
yeah, my mom is very musical. She was a flute major, so like music has been her whole life. Like she's just, and my papa was a music professor at a college, and like he's done like opera and stuff like that. So just very, very musically inclined. So whenever we started, expressing interest, she was like, great, let's start now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where are you from? I mean, that might be good to know too.
I'm from San Antonio, Texas.
I was just there, and it's so nice.
Oh, it's beautiful. Y'all were at
when you say it was.
Yeah. We stopped in San Antonio for spring break.
Oh,
we went to the Riverwalk.
We
spent a night down there, and it's so pretty.
Yeah. Fort A is the nice. It's like 2 hours away from my house.
Yeah.
So like we had seen.
What did you calling it?
It's Fort A. Fort A. It's like one of the beaches.
Aransas. Yes.
Oh, okay.
So that's like only 2 hours away from my house. We don't go there very often, but like a lot of times, if it was like we had senior skip day, it's like that's a thing that you can do in one day. That's like an outing. So like me and my friends, we went down there for a day.
Yeah,
very nice.
I honestly like 4 days, like 2 hours from my house, so that's like the closest like nice beach. Yeah. But my grandparents live in Los Fresnos, which is like probably 4 to 5 hours south from where we live in San Antonio, Texas. But they're only an hour hour away from South Padre Island, which is like the very, very edge.
Yeah.
And that's like that's the beach that I went to because I would always be there for like the entire summer. That's like where my entire extended family lives. So
South Padre is really pretty too. I've been there as well.
Me too.
Yeah. It's so beautiful.
That's very cool.
It's like where my dad grew up. He's only lived an hour away, so he'd be like, "Oh yeah, we just take weekend trips all the time out there." Like his prom night, they just all went out to the beach. I was like, "That's so cool." Like,
yeah.
And I think I've told you, but I have a family connection to Bandera County, Texas. I have a great grandfather that was the first sheriff of Bandera County. So, maybe we are related somewhere back there.
There's a chance.
Yeah, honestly.
Any connections? I'm like,
yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right.
So what was it like? Like, how was your church life there, like in San Antonio?
It was really good. So I'm, the congregation that I went to was the Shenandoah congregation, which is the one in San Antonio. So, it was mostly me, my sisters, and then the Farrells were the youth. Other than that, there's like a good 50-year age gap between everybody else. So
I get that.
But at the same time, I just had like so many grandparents at that point. Like,
Yeah.
There is an advantage to that.
No,
Yeah.
Graduation.
Yes, exactly.
I had like a separate graduation party just with like the people from my church, and it's just $100.
I know.
They're so sweet though.
Yes.
I still keep up to date with them, but it was really good. So my dad was the pastor the entire time I grew up there.
Okay.
So a lot of staying there later, you know, weekend work days, stuff like that. But it was really, really good overall, and I loved the community. I also especially saw a big change during COVID in our church. But like in a really good way, because a lot of churches had to shut down and they were like figuring out how to do that. And my dad, he's just kind of the type of person that like, if there's a problem, he will just work at it from every angle till he figures it out.
Yeah.
Like he's just like, yeah, I just kind of like went and just tried these 27 things. And I'm like, okay, like he just always finds a solution. Yeah. So he worked really, really hard to get within the week of it shutting down, we had online services. And those originally started just like out of our living room, like stuff like that. But then it started, we started like building different, I don't know, like, foundations for it. So, he got a tech team with like people. And so we would have a weekly slideshow. And they'd be operating how to do, they'd spotlight people, they'd mute people, they'd work on getting the transitions down. We'd have, Zoom calls every Saturday at, I think it was 3:00 where we would practice for the service. It was like just 30 minutes of like practicing transitions and getting everything put together. And then we, in order to get, hymns to work, because that was something that was like, once that was gone, it really affected everybody. So we ended up finding that it was better if we had recorded hymns. So we recorded them, and we had a trailer in our backyard. And so it was like every Friday night, it would be like, okay, these are the 5 hymns we have to record before the service on Sunday. And then over time, I mean, we recorded like, I don't know, close to 400 hymns that are just like saved on our phone. Okay. Yeah. And so then
so a group of you from your family would go out there?
Yeah, it was just all 6 of us.
All 6 of you. And you'd go. Yeah. That way when people, I mean, I assume people would maybe sing along. Yeah. Yeah, cool. Yeah. So at least that,
yeah. And then since it was more than just one voice singing, it sounded like you were singing with more of a congregation. So we started doing that. So I just have like my entire like audio thing is just like that, or I'll get texts from my parents sometimes being like, can you check if you have this hymn? And then we like uploaded them onto a database so that now it's all filed. So we don't even have to record hymns anymore because we have like almost all of them recorded. Yeah. And so we even figured out that apparently some of the other churches up north started like using art. So we're like, oh, that's cool.
I know. Actually, we've done that some here at Graceland. We used another church's, recording. So
we call it our coal choir, and that's what we would do on Friday nights.
A coal choir. Yeah. Wow.
But we found that the trailer had the best like sound, and we'd play around with like, we'd record the beginning and be like, oh, that was too loud, let's turn it down, just stuff like that. So my dad worked really hard to get a platform for that, and then so church services have been running really smoothly, and it's now like mixed.
It's mixed. Okay,
yeah, and he's like fully intending that it's going to be like, we're going to have online as an option, especially with our older congregation. A lot of them don't feel comfortable coming in person, understandably. So
COVID's not really completely over. So that's really nice. That's good that they would your family would think about the older people and take care of them.
They have like the cameras that they have. So we have like probably 4 or 5 cameras set up around. And they're all just like our old iPhone 5s that have been sitting in the drawer. That's funny.
Yeah. Gosh, what a good use of wow, I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah, so we just have like that's why the transitions and stuff, it'll be like, oh, we're going to use camera 3 at this point and camera 2 at this point. It's just because my dad works really hard to get that stuff thought out. And then the last thing that we did to like more of like build community, where like we couldn't see each other over COVID, was we did Wednesday nights at 8:00. It was every other week. It was either just open chats with anyone who wanted to join, or me and Audrey would host game nights. So we had to find ways to do games that weren't, even just like putting a link in the chat was a little too tech savvy for some people. So we did like games that all you had to do was like tell us what you like. I
Yeah,
don't know.
just say something.
Yeah. To like Jeopardy or categories.
Yeah.
I think one of the favorites was Farkle. So
Yeah.
just stuff like that. So now me and Audrey also have like a database where it's like we have like 6 or 7 games at the ready at all times, just like on our phones that we're like, we can just put this on the screen if y'all want.
You know, I'm really glad you've told us this, because I think we could use you in campus ministry to do these music and games. And so I have a question for you. What brought you to Graceland? I mean, you've mentioned your parents. Did they go to Graceland?
My dad did.
Your dad did. Okay. Yeah. Is that why you're here? Because of your dad, or?
I'm not here because he was here.
Okay.
It more put Graceland on my radar.
Yeah.
Okay.
If that makes sense. So
did you go to Spec?
I was Spec my freshman year. And then my sophomore and junior year, it was shut down for COVID.
Oh, yeah.
And then we were going to come back this year, but 3 days before, Audrey tested positive for COVID, and we didn't want to get anybody sick.
Yeah.
So we were all signed up and everything, but we had to cancel.
Yeah, sure.
So I did get 1 year, but
well, my sister went and she got COVID from Spec.
Well,
so...
Audrey got it from camps.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Oh.
Bandera did not favor very good this year at camps. There was a lot of COVID, but
I trust it was pretty mild though, or in most cases.
In most cases, it was. My parents specifically actually got it pretty bad. My dad was sick with a fever for about 3 weeks,
no.
And after that, I mean, they had lasting COVID for a couple months, but at the same time, it was like it wasn't fun because we were all like quarantining separated from each other as my family for like.
Now that's before you started this year, right?
Yes. That was over the summer.
Over the summer before this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there was about a month period where like I just didn't see my parents because we couldn't get close to them, or like because Audrey had it, we didn't want to re-expose them, and we were pretty sure she had a different strain, so it was a mess.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, it was also like one of those that they had been vaccinated, they'd been recently boosted, and they had such bad symptoms. And so I was like really thankful for the fact that our family had taken COVID so seriously. Like my entire junior year, I never left my house. I don't think I was ever in contact with anyone for that entire year outside of my house.
Wow.
So the fact that we waited until the vaccine and we're like very safe about it and like wiped down our groceries and, all the extra precautions.
Right.
And then they got it whenever they had the vaccine. I was like, thank God we took it that seriously, because if that was her symptoms with the vaccine, I can't imagine.
It could have been much worse.
It's so individualized. Like it's so different for certain
gone
people.
In 2 days, and I
same.
Yeah.
And my wife and I both got it, and we had very different symptoms. I mean, it's
but
yeah, but so tell me again. That's great information, great story. So what brought you to Graceland then?
Yeah.
I mean,
so my dad put on my map, and then I've had a lot of cousins come through here. So like Avery Danielson, if you know Avery, she was here, and Brian and Brianna came through, and so I had cousins who had gone through, and my grandparents actually came here whenever it was still like a 2-year college.
Okay.
Like a really long time ago.
So you have some family connections.
So
it was on your map.
Yeah.
But then you had to make a decision at some point too.
So I went to a really, really big high school. It was like close to 4,000 students.
Wow.
It was really overwhelming, and it was like you had to specialize yourself by middle school. And otherwise, you weren't really going to get anywhere. Like my sister Cassandra, who'd been playing volleyball for like 5 years, but it was YMCA, so it was for fun, and it was something that she enjoyed doing. And by the time she got to middle school, she like, as an 8th grader, only got onto like the C team for volleyball because it's like only club members got onto the A team for a middle school. Like it was just that competitive.
Wow, I never really thought about how competitive
it was. So, and I was an orchestra, theater. Wanted to be choir kid. I did orchestra and choir in middle school, and I didn't have room in my schedule for theater. But then by the time I got to high school, I really had to make a choice I had to pick one.
Yeah.
So I did originally my freshman, sophomore year, I did like theater and orchestra, but even with that, they're like, you can't, like you don't, your schedules are too conflicting. You have rehearsals, because I had theater rehearsals till 7:00 about every single night. And then it was like, oh, but you need to be at this rehearsal for orchestra. I was like, I can't. And then they're like, oh, you need to practice for this. So I had to specialize myself. And even with that, I got like one role because of how competitive that department was. And, like, you just don't really get, you don't really
get a chance to do a whole lot.
And that was really overwhelming for me because I just wanted to like, find out who I was, just
try a little something everywhere. Yeah.
And I just felt very overwhelmed by that. And I struggled a lot with like mental health, like anxiety and depression sophomore year. And it's hard to do that in a big school because the teachers don't really notice you. It's very easy to disappear and people just
it's not super personalized.
No, not at all. Even the counselors are very much just like, they don't really pay attention to mental health at all. I know that suicide was something that was very, very common to hear about. I have had like a lot of friends specifically who were like, have tried and attempted just because of how overwhelming it is. Mm-hmm. And so I hated it. I hated going to a big school. I liked the opportunities gave me and stuff like that, but I knew that I wanted to go to a small college.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wanted to like, I've always had this like mindset of like, I'm smart and I can work hard. But I wanted college to be the time to like find myself. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I don't want an Ivy League education. Yeah. I want to just like become the best version that I can be and then prove myself when it comes time to like
and try different things.
Yeah.
I mean that you couldn't do in high school.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah. So what are you doing at Graceland that would be an example of that? I mean,
well,
we mentioned you play the cello, so you're in the orchestra.
I'm doing just like a lot of things that I don't think I would have had an opportunity otherwise. So I'm doing orchestra, I'm doing choir, I am doing afterglow, and like singing is not like it's something that I think I found more therapeutic. Okay. So like growing up, because my mom and my sister Cassandra were so good at singing, and it was like it's so beautiful to listen to. It was more of something that I would like watch and I loved that. But then I also like, because I was in such a big school, there weren't opportunities
to actually sing.
Perform.
Yeah, right.
And I had to not do choir in my high school because
did you sing at church at all? I mean, I mean like a solo or things like okay. Really that. I mean,
more of just
like as a member of the congregation and things like that. Yeah. Okay.
So it's like, even though I'm like, I'm unlearning the concept of that I have to be the best at something to enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And so like Afterglow has been that for me, where like every single week I've slowly gotten to the point where like at the beginning I sat down and I was like, oh my God, I was like, I didn't like this part, and I was like super critical. Yeah. And now I sit down with my friends afterwards and I'm like, it could have gone better, but I had fun. Yeah. And that's like something that I've really enjoyed.
And Afterglow is our Wednesday night worship service now, which is now our primary worship service. We've started back having Sunday evening or afternoon worship services, but Afterglow is certainly taken off this year with good attendance, and so it's given you a chance. That's good to know. It's given you a chance to
it's been really fun.
Sing and not be perfect. That sounds critical, but I don't mean it that way. Yeah.
So do you think that helps like describe your Graceland experience?
Yeah, very much so. Like just being able to be involved in like whatever I am excited about. So like being on like HOCO and being able, and like I hope to run for House President in a few years, and that's like something that I'm excited for, and like just stuff like that. But just being able to be involved and like not have to be like the perfect upstanding person and being like, I can make mistakes. It's okay. Sure. Like, it's just.
We actually all do. It's like, but but like so many times we don't talk about the mistakes.
So, and I was really lucky to have such a good like family to where like my high school time, even though school was like really, really hard, I still like had my family and we would have these fun moments together and stuff like that. So it wasn't all horrible, but it was just also this point of like being like, I want to just like be me around other people rather than just at home.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like Graceland, I saw that whenever I came and visited, and it just made me excited to like have a place where it's like, I feel like you get so caught up in like growing up and being like, these are what I have to do. And like, I'm a 2-year-old at heart. And so I came here and they were like, oh yeah, we have these silly little games. And I was like, that's perfect. That's for me.
Yeah.
Oh. So what do you hope to do? Like, I mean, I know you're just finishing your first year, so this is always a loaded question in my mind, but do you have thoughts about what you want to do like after you graduate? I mean, and who knows? It'll probably change between now and the time to graduate, but
So actually, like in terms of like what I want to do after graduate, I've actually thought more about like outside of my career, if that makes sense. I'm still figuring out what I want to do in my career. I know I'm doing something in business. I'm finding like certain things that I've enjoyed economics so far and like trying to find that, but I haven't really specifically chosen what I want to go into. But I have thought a lot about like what I want to do with my life outside of my career.
What's that then? That's
so like so I want to like I probably am going to move back to Texas just because that's where my family is and I really want to be close to them.
Yeah.
In terms of like wanting to have a family, I want to adopt. Like that's just something that I've always been like more inclined to being interested in.
Adoptee right here.
And just stuff like that. And then like this is super silly, but like me and my friends have already like made plans that are like half jokes but half completely serious about retiring.
Oh yeah,
like what we want to do.
Yeah.
Like what, when you're 25 or something?
We all both like talked about it, and my sister Cassandra and Miranda and like their friends, and we're getting a farm together, and we're
I see.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be in charge of like the weird animals. I want to take care of like the raccoons that are found.
Yeah,
and I'll be like, I'll take care of you. Like
that's farm
me.
With raccoons.
Yeah.
And so then like other friends were like, I'll do the meals. Cassandra's gonna do the music. Other people were like, I'll do the flower beds and like the gardening. Like just I've thought a lot about my future, but more in like the broad sense.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It's totally fine. I mean, that makes sense. So.
Yeah. So what are your hopes for Community of Christ in the future?
I guess I have really enjoyed like seeing how accepting they've been in comparison to a lot of other Christian churches. So I actually have had this talk several times with like Audrey and stuff where I often felt like I had to hide my religion because of all of my theater friends were a lot of them were LGBTQ community. I'm LGBTQ community. And so a lot of them grew up in Texas churches and experienced a lot of religious trauma. Like that was just like an overarching thing with like most of the people that I knew were like, my parents did this to me and this to me, this to me. And so I just felt like I had to hide it.
Yeah.
And I've never been one to like, be super like loud about it. Like I've just been like, this is for me. It's something that I enjoy. And so I think, then I started to realize that like, I can do my part within my religion to like make sure that that's not others' experiences. And so I've like, whenever I tell people about the fact that like our church is accepting of LGBTQ community and has women in the priesthood, and they're always shocked. Or like specifically the fact that as like three sisters and me, all of us are part of the LGBTQ community. And our dad's a pastor. And so people hear that and they're like, oh my gosh, are you okay? And I'm like, my dad's great. He's great.
Exactly.
Like, and I think that catches people off guard. And so I've enjoyed seeing that. And I think in terms of the future, just like being more like loud about it, just being like, there is a community if you are looking for it. Like you will find a place. And I think that for a lot of marginalized communities or oppressed groups, Community of Christ can be that place. It's just more of like continuing to work on destigmatizing and like, and then for our part, working to destigmatize, but then also just being more like, these are like, instead of being like, oh, like we're accepting, like whispering, just like loud about it. Being like, no, seriously, we are here for you if you need it. So those would be more of my hopes.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
I have no idea.
We did talk a lot.
Not off the top of my head.
Okay.
Thank you so much for spending time with us. So that wraps things up for this episode of Copying the Swarm. Thanks for listening.
This is Julie.
And Mike signing off until next time.